Last week, I stopped by Trader Joe's to ask for flower donations for many of these flowers here we see in the center. And sometimes I get a little nervous when I have to ask people for stuff. I'd rather do it by myself. And so I walk in and these words just kind of started tumbling out. Guatemala, flower donations, Palm Sunday. And the three managers that I was kind of talking with sort of looked at me with blank stares. What are you talking about? And so the one guy says to me, well, I remember Palm Sunday, the waving of palms and all, but what do you want with the flowers? So I started telling them about this Guatemalan tradition of building alfombras. These are called alfombras, which means carpet in Spanish. And so I went into this kind of whole in-depth explanation, which was probably more information than they really wanted. But I thought I would tell you guys about it this morning also. So in Guatemala, these types of carpets are crafted every Saturday into Sunday evening during the Sunday morning in Lent, and then every day during Holy Week. And they're laid out, we just have a couple here, but they're laid out one after another for whole city blocks and miles from the villages into the main city. And they craft these specifically so that they can be walked on by a big procession that comes in carrying statues of Jesus and Mary and so they walk on them, and then all their work is ruined. And so as I was hearing about this tradition, I just kept thinking, wow, they know how to have a parade in Guatemala. But the piece that for me was so compelling is that it's during Holy Week. And it's all done because they're worshiping Jesus. Well, it's been a while since I really participated in a parade. I was in high school marching band, and I loved it. I loved the people screaming and the drums pounding. I loved the candy all over the ground. I would love to see my parents and my friends around the corner. Being in the parade was thrilling. It was much more fun than just standing around watching it. And I've attended a few parades in the past years, but I haven't felt that same rush of adrenaline that I felt in high school until this past Thursday. Thursday, I remembered what it's like to really be in a parade. Because on Thursday, I went back to Trader Joe's to pick up the promised flowers, fully expecting a few bouquets of sort of, dead flowers that I was going to pick through so we could find just enough to make a couple small flower carpets. So I walk in, and the woman says, I told her again who I was, and the woman says, oh, I have a lot for you. And I say, okay, thinking, I need a lot, that's great. And she sort of looks at me, because I think she could tell that I'm like, okay, She says, no, really, I have 2 grocery carts full of flowers for you. So now I'm thinking, wow. And then she says, can you fit them in your car? So I load up the flowers, I go to pick them up, and they're beautiful. These are flowers that I would have bought, that they were going to toss out. And so then they're all in my car, and my car is immediately filled with this fragrance that then for the rest of the day I smelled great because it was just lingering on my clothes. So I show up here at church with this van full of flowers, and the homemakers group was here. And so as I'm unloading these flowers and I'm putting them in buckets, I just kept talking, kind of like I am now. I just kept talking and talking about these flowers, how excited I was. And then you're going to think I'm so silly. So my phone was in the car as I'm unloading all these flowers. I'm like, I have to post all these flowers on Facebook, and I have to tweet them. So I go out to get my phone, and I come and I take a picture of the flowers. And then I'm driving to Virginia, and I called a friend to tell them all about the flowers, and then I called Don and told him all about the flowers. So I'm talking everybody's ear off about these flowers. I emailed Charles Gravenstein about the flowers. And then, later on in the afternoon, I met the orthodontist, and I was telling the orthodontist about the flowers, and I was emailing with my pastor. I mean, I had this profound sense of, wow, I cannot wait to do this for Jesus. I mean, I really could not wait. Which is as it should be. This triumphal entry of Jesus should be a day full of jubilance. And most people in that kind of parade 2,000 years ago, they only knew that. They didn't really get that there wasn't going to be something to still be excited for in a couple days. They only knew right now that today is a day to fill up on jubilance. And that's how my heart felt this week. Full of jubilee. Like I could do nothing but worship Jesus. And that is not something I say that often. That everywhere I went, that's all I could think about and talk about. And I think that's sort of the gift of parades. They fill us with jubilee. Because why do we do that? I mean, why build floats? And why throw candy? And why stand on the side of the road just to cheer? Why are you going to show up here on a Saturday night to stencil with sawdust? I mean, there could be a better use of time and energy. But you know, when we were preparing to build these alfombras, I had quite a few conversations with Charles and Karen Gravenstein about their time in Guatemala. And as some of you know, our youth are traveling to Guatemala this summer. And we were kind of talking about this, because I've been in Central America a little bit, and they had been there. So we were sharing how profound those experiences are on forming faith, and how I'm so confident that our youth are going to have that same transformational, wow kind of experience with Jesus. And in one of those conversations, Charles told me a story which really touched my heart and really was the reason that I thought, we have to do this. And it's a story about the use of time and parades. So he and Karen were in Guatemala and had seen many, many of these, some of which took hours to make. Like they would stay up all night building them. And as they walked along the parade routes, Charles stopped and said to a man, "You sure put a lot of time and work into that." I mean, because remember, they're going to be trampled on, ruined under people's feet. In some ways, I think the fact that they're ruined under people's feet is fitting. It's not proper. It's not as it ought to be, but it is fitting. It is what we do. Because even though we wish it wasn't true, we do defile and ruin and trample on and crucify the beauty that God gives to us. It's all laid out in front of us. And we reject it. And the Guatemalan man says back to them, This is nothing compared to what Jesus did for me. And he is so right. I mean, this paving is such an interesting dichotomy to me, because we've paved the way here for Jesus. We've lined the road to the cross. But that's an oxymoron, because Jesus is the one that actually paves his way to us. The man from Guatemala sums up all of Palm Sunday in those 10 words. It's nothing compared to what Jesus does for us. And that's the part. That's the part that stops my heart and makes me realize that the people who lined the streets on that first Palm Sunday, they weren't just attending a parade. They were the parade. They were raising their palms and laying down their coats and crafting their carpets and singing their hosannas. That's what makes the parade. That's why I made you guys wave those palms, because it's not standing around. Which means that you and I today, we are the parade. We are the ones who get to go out and make noise for Jesus. Last night when we were here crafting these carpets, we were all trying to make them, perfect. We didn't want to get the sawdust in the wrong place or bump into somebody else's work, or, I was trying to make sure all the flowers matched. But the air, it just buzzed with this love and excitement and dedication. All those kind of parade feelings just hummed about. And as I watched, because there was a point where it was just going, and I kind of watched, and I couldn't help but think that Jesus would be honored to walk on these carpets, to ride the donkey brought to them. And I've talked with enough people last night and this morning that I know I'm not the only one who felt that way. The carpets are beautiful. They are. There's no question that it's just beauty. But you know what? Even if we had bumped and messed up the sawdust, even if we only had evergreens and dirt, even if it didn't all go according to plan, that is not the point. The point is actually getting down on our knees and doing it. The point is actually laying down the carpet. The point is actually being in the parade. It's not the perfection of the parade. It's not waiting for the time to be right. And it's not waiting for somebody else to figure out the path. And it's not being afraid to say to someone, I do this for you because of what Jesus did for me. Or I'll walk with you because Jesus walks with me. Because you never know how those little words might just change a life. Because that man in Guatemala, he had no idea when he said to Charles those few words, that they would carry those words home in their hearts. And that at some point, those words would be said to me. And that then this would be birthed out of that. And that at some point, his story and the proclamation of Jesus Christ would be shared here because of that. You just never know. I don't know about you, but at some point, I started standing along the side of the road rather than dancing in the parade. Let's not do that. I mean, come on. Dance in the parade of life with Jesus Christ. So I need you to lift up your palms and shout Hosanna. Hosanna! One more time. Hosanna! The King of David does indeed come. Thanks